Hello everybody, my name is Sarah and today I'll be refuting the claim that television has a significant negative effect on children. The speaker introduced two main claims, the first one being that television negatively affects children's physical health, and the second one is that television negatively affects children's mental health. With the first claim, the speaker also introduces two subpoints. The first one is that excessive amounts of television can cause obesity. The claim that excessive amounts of television causes obesity is too simplistic. In the Reuters article, the speaker used the opening headline that states, "Too much television has long been linked to childhood obesity," but a U.S. study suggests that the connection holds true for smaller screens too, such as computers, gaming consoles, tablets, and smartphones. Also, a direct quote from the same article is that this study cannot prove that television on 4 times on smaller screens causes obesity. So this proves the point that there are more factors leading to this trend, and the speaker's evidence to prove their point is inaccurate. The speaker's second subpoint is that there is immobility associated with watching television. The claim that immobility associated with watching television is also too narrow. This also does not account for kids who watch television but also participate in sports and other activities. In an article from Livestrong.com in 2017, it is stated that 69% of girls and 75% of boys in the United States participate in organized and team sports, according to the 2008 report titled "Go Out and Play: Participation in Team or Organized Sports," which was conducted by the Women's Sports Foundation. Between 2006 and 2007, approximately 7.4 million boys and girls participated in high school sports. While youth participation in sports continues to rise, there's only 15% who have never participated in sports. The second claim that television negatively affects children's mental health is unsubstantiated. While TV has been consistently blamed for diminishing children's brain power, University of London academics found that those who watched 3 or more hours a day were 3 months ahead of those who watched them less than an hour a day. Also, the educational value of children's television has been underestimated. It may also help expose children to a broader vocabulary than they get at home. So television can have a significant positive effect on children. In an article from the Huffington Post in 2015, it talks about the Sesame Street study. The most authoritative study ever done on the impact of Sesame Street finds that the famous show on public TV has delivered lasting educational benefits to millions of American children. Benefits as powerful as the ones children get from learning in preschool. In an article from The Atlantic, writer Aaliyah Wong states that only 40% of 4-year-olds nationwide are enrolled in preschool, and otherwise a good chunk of these are considered to be low quality. The payoff appears to be especially strong for disadvantaged children who might not otherwise have exposure to stuff emphasizing quality preschools, such as vocabulary and good nutrition. The preschoolers with access to Sesame Street were apparently more likely to start school on time, progress through grade levels at the age deemed appropriately, and the effect appeared to be most significant among children raised in economically disadvantaged areas, and an impact that mirrors of preschool. The speaker's last subpoint is that television can cause aggressive behavior. However, this point is dependent on certain factors. In the study conducted by Penn State that the speaker used, it shows that 100 preschoolers watched either a violent cartoon or not violent cartoon. So half of these kids may or may not have experienced an increase in aggression. Also, according to Jonathan Friedman, the author and professor of psychology at the University of Toronto, he believes that this kind of television does not affect children's aggression at all. Some kids may get very excited and look like they're more aggressive because they're very excited. But if they watch some non-violent program, whatever that means, plus some very active, lively program, they'll probably behave the same way. So let's review all my claims. The first claim that television causes obesity is too simplistic, and there are more factors leading to this trend. The second claim that there is immobility associated with watching television is also too narrow because it does not account for kids who watch television but also participate in sports and other activities. The third claim that television negatively affects children's mental health is unsubstantiated because television has the power to provide educational exposure to young children, offer inspiration, help English language learners, and things such as vocabulary, social, and emotional support. And lastly, the fourth claim that television can cause aggressive behavior is dependent on certain factors. So it is clear that television has a significant positive effect on children. Thank you.
All right, you ID the main claim and the secondary claims pretty clearly. You go after the first point, the minor points. You suggest that they're overly simplistic. You kind of suggest that the problem, it would be broader than just television. That's basically your argument, that there are all kinds of other things that could be contributing to these things, and narrowing it to television is a little bit problematic. That's a reasonable press there. You know, the second point on mobility, you kind of challenge it as being too narrow, but your real response to this is that there's a lot of activity by kids in these particular age groups, and you had some statistical information that showed that there was a lot of participation in sports, for instance. Boy, those numbers seemed high to me, but maybe that's an accurate reflection of what kids are doing, in which case I'm not exactly sure why it is I have to see that, 30 minutes of play public service announcement all the time. Sounds like everybody's getting 30 minutes of play at least. The mental health issues, you had good evidence that reaches contrary conclusions. There's not really much discussion of the advocate's evidence and reasoning on this point. It's mostly about your counterclaims. And the Sesame Street example is another counterexample to illustrate the point. In other words, you've got an illustration that suggests that television has a vital role to play with kids, and it can be beneficial. It's not being contrasted very much to the advocate's argument on this point. There is a little bit of a press on the last point on the aggression study, suggesting that maybe the way things get defined is not really appropriate. That it's excitement that is really being measured here as opposed to aggression, and that is not the same thing. I thought you had a summary that was very solid also. Thank you.